What is going on, my audience of this Move the Chains podcast with your man and your host, Sam McIntyre? We're doing well today on this manic Monday after a crazy weekend of football. I always want to dive into my post-game reaction after we do this. Colts Vikings last night. It was a little bit of a boring game, a little bit defensive slugfest. I figured that going in. But it was a really good game last night. And I got to give a shout out to my boy, my man, Sammy Darnold, balling last night. He's looking good. Finally got him some support last night. I always felt like he was a great talent coming out of USC, University of Spoiled Children, by the way, according to Lou Holtz. But I want to throw a little side jab in there. But he looked good last night. He had some little mistakes, but you know, it's always going to have some Sammy in there. He's going to have some shithead Sammy, like me. He's going to do some crazy, but he's going to do a lot of great stuff last night. And obviously, he did that against the Colts. So I want to get my post-game reaction to that. I also want to talk about the Bears yesterday. What a fucking shit show that is. I've seen that coming from a mile away. Fuck around, you're going to find out what's going on there. And then also, I want to touch on Detroit. I'm more impressed by them week by week. I know I talked about them last couple weeks ago against when Dallas in that game where they dominated. So I wanted to talk about that today, but I wanted to touch on the game last night. Colts in Minnesota last night with the skull chant, that loud-ass stadium. I got to hit that. That's one of my stadiums I need to hit in my life. So I wanted to touch on the Colts Vikings last night. So on the Colts end, they're at Crossroads right now. My dad was asking me tonight, what do they do with Anthony Richardson? I don't know what you do. I don't know. I mean, the Colts are kind of band-aiding this whole thing together. And it didn't help that Andrew Luck kind of put them in a bind, and they've been searching, and they've been band-aiding and all this stuff. I mean, it's crazy to think 3 years ago, Carson Wentz has 27 touchdowns and 7 picks, and then they cut him. I mean, I know they lost that last game to Jacksonville, and that kind of hampered it. He was playing really well that season. But this is on Jim Irsay. I mean, again, I like Chris Ballard a lot. And they have a really good roster, really borderline elite roster in the NFL, especially in the AFC. So you got a lot of things you got to build on in Indianapolis, but it comes back down to the quarterback. And look, will Joe Flacco face a defense like this? No, he will not. Probably not the rest of the year. Now they play the Jets coming up, and we'll see how that offensive line for the Colts matches up against the Jets. Fearsome, foursome of that pass rush. The way they got after C.J. Stroud, maybe I'm sure they might do that to Joe Flacco. But I'm always curious to see what's going to happen to the Colts. Now, when I just mentioned that defense that they're not going to face, they're not going to face another defense like that for the rest of the year, I don't believe. Where they're bringing 8, dropping 6, or whatever kind of stuff Brian Flores is bringing, because you don't know what coverage and where they're bringing the blitzes out. Are they bringing off the corner? Are they bringing off the slot? Are they doing the tackle, DN stunt? You don't know. It's coming from fucking absolutely nowhere. And, you know, RKO came out of nowhere. Oh, shit. You know, so you got a lot of things to go for, in that game. And so the other thing, and the Colts are going to be fine. I think they're still a well-coached football team. Shane Steichen, to me, I heard a funny thing today. He looks like a disheveled cop. He looks like he's just been weathered. You know, he looks like a guy that's only got 3 hours of sleep. And Kevin O'Connell looks like the young, handsome, tall Sean McVay, looking swagged out. He's got his hair cut. He looks ballin'. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But last night, to me, was a tale of two teams. They're going to be in the playoffs, I believe. Colts probably will fight for a playoff spot. Minnesota will be in the playoffs, in my opinion. And I really do believe that. But I wanted to touch on the Colts I just touched on. But right now, I'm going to touch on the Vikings and give them some love. I'm a Packer fan a little bit. I've been a Packer fan since Brett Favre. And I've obviously followed them a lot along with the Raiders. But I got to be honest, Minnesota to me, I know they went to the playoffs 2 years ago. Kevin Connell's first year. They were 11-0, one-score games, and they're winning all these games, and they got a home playoff game. Lost the Giants, But this team feels different to me because of one thing. They got a quarterback now. And their defense is much, much better than it was 2 years ago. So I do believe Minnesota, could they get a home field? No doubt. I mean, could they beat Atlanta? Yeah, I do believe they could beat Atlanta. Could they beat Detroit? I don't know. I'm not sure of that. But I do know if I'm stacking the 7 NFC teams right now, Detroit, Minnesota, Washington. Atlanta's thrown in there. Maybe Philadelphia. I don't know after yesterday. I'm so sick of Nick Sirianni and his bald-headed dumbass. I'm sick of him with his dipshit head. But I look at the division right now in the NFC North, and it's as stacked as I've ever seen it. And I was talking to my buddy Aaron Lanham. Shout out to him. He called me the other night. He's the biggest Packer fan I know. And we were talking. He just can't believe how great and competitive this division is. It really is. I know the Bears were just atrocious, but we'll see what happens there. And I'll get to them in a second. But I'm really impressed with Minnesota. Sam Darnold's finally got a comfort spot in Minnesota with this coach, with this roster, the playmakers around. I know they lost Aaron Jones and Green Bay did. But the Aaron Jones is just such a great back. Really good change of pace. Could run in between the tackles and go outside. Great hands out of the backfield. He's just a complete weapon. And Minnesota's stolen from Green Bay. And it feels like all these Packer players are once Packers and they go to the Vikings, or it's vice versa. I feel like that's how it always is in the NFC North, the black and blue division. So, great win last night from Minnesota. They get off the schneid after those 2 games. They were 5-0, started hot, lost 2 straight to really good teams in the NFC. It's not fault of their own. Lost to the Lions at home and then lost in LA to the Rams, although that call was bullshit, whatever. But they got back on the winning track last night and beat the Colts 21-13. So, as I mentioned before, I'm going to talk about the Lions as I do every week on this podcast. Glad you guys are doing well today on this Manic Monday. Hope you guys are doing well. But I got to tell you, this Lions team is the most impressive team I've seen from an NFC team in a long time. Reminds me of Carolina a little bit a couple of years ago when they were just on a tear and just molly-whopping people. Now, this Lions team's much better than Carolina to me in all facets. Carolina had an okay offensive line. This Lions team is the best offensive line in football. Jared Goff is just balling right now. He's a surgeon back there. When I heard John Gruden say he looks like Joe Montana, I don't think Gruden's fucking lying. He's been around this game long enough. Shout out to Chucky. I love you. Get that snarl. But I'm with Gruden on that. I think that he's playing so good football right now. They have such a repertoire of weapons when it comes to Jameson Williams. To get him back in a couple weeks. You got Sammy Laporta. I love you, Sammy. And you got your offensive line who's molly-whopping people. It is just, they beat you in so many different fucking ways. And I'm incredible. I'm amazed. And Mike Kesnick should be happy. He's been a Lions fan, the biggest one I know for a long time. And a couple other people I know, my buddy Anthony Giles, who I got to give a shout-out to. He's been a diehard Lions fan, too. So, I'm very impressed with Detroit. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I really do. As it stands right now, we got a long way to go. But the way that I'm seeing it right now, it is on a track to get home field, the number 1 seed, and just run away with the NFC. Although there's some stiff competition, Washington, obviously, and Philadelphia, they can get their shit together. So, I was really impressed with Detroit. And Green Bay on that side of it, I didn't mention this, but they're going to be okay. I think Green Bay, Jordan Love's got to kind of calm down a little bit. Pipe down, ma, he's a roller coaster ride. And I fall victim to this. I was thinking about this on my way home tonight from just going to work and then gym after work and then coming home. Is I think that we do this a lot. And I fall victim to it too. I get excitable. I'm an excitable kid. We kind of hype Jordan Love up a lot. And for good reason. Last 8 games of the year, he was great. He's kind of been all over the map this year. And some of it's been hurt. I get it. But yesterday's game plan was kind of horseshit. Like, what are you doing? I mean, that weather's favoring you against the Lions, and you want to sling that rock all over the field. You can't do that. You got to play good football in the rain. And you're running the ball well. I didn't understand that, but Green Bay's got to bye. They're going to be okay. They're going to be in the playoffs, I believe, and they're going to be okay. So the last thing I wanted to touch on was the Chicago Bears. And good Lord, are they a mess. Okay. So I wanted to start off and touch on, I predicted this for the year. I said you can be my witness. I was never a Caleb Williams guy. I didn't like anything he did. I thought he did too much ad-libby shit in college. I don't buy into him. I think he's a talent, no question. But he's got a little bit of Kyler Murray in him where there's a lot of talent, but I just don't trust the character and all this stuff. Although Kyler looks like he's matured. I got to see him lose a couple games, and maybe those old bad habits will creep in. Kind of like I mentioned with Shador a couple days ago. So, again, there's elements of the Bears I like. Their defense, I don't know what's gone on. I mean, they missed Montez Sweat yesterday. Good God, they could have missed Brian Urlacher, Mike Singletary, Dick Butkus. I mean, they were awful yesterday. And Arizona barely had to do shit. And it comes back to this with the Bears. I don't trust this organization. I've said this from the jump. They need a reboot. They need to sell this fucking thing. You need to pull the Raiders. You need to pull Washington. I mean, Washington, your rival, who you know what I can't figure out is you had Cliff Kingsbury in the fucking door, and you could have had him. You could have had Cliff Kingsbury, who worked with Caleb Williams, and imagine if Cliff Kingsbury's there right now. This offense looks way better than it does with Shane Waldron. And Shane Waldron left Seattle. Phil Sexton was telling me this. Their offense looks better without him. So I don't know what to make of this. But Caleb, I can't, like, parts of me defend him, but I can't defend his performance. He looks awful. I mean, he really looks awful. What is the report card? A D, an F? I mean, what are we doing? And once again, this defensive-like culture, these defensive coaches are fucking dumb when it comes to this. They do not get offensive lines right. And last year, the Bears, they looked decent on offensive line with Darnell Wright and a couple of their guys up front. Right now, it's a mess. And I'll go back to this. You should have taken a lineman at the 8th pick instead of taking a receiver. I get it, sexy. I get it. But the Bears are an all-Madden team, and I'm watching this movie, and it's just a joke. And the coach is gone. I'm sorry. I can't forgive you. Your record is what it is. It's like what Maya Angelou said. If somebody tells you who they are, believe them. And I'm telling you, Matty Eberflus is not the guy. And he's a great defensive coordinator. I'm sure of it. He's smart. But, dude, come on. The Bears will never. I mean, where I'm getting at is the Bears were so creative offensively the first couple weeks. Before the Redskin game, before the bye. And ever since then, they've been shitty. So I don't know what's going on. And I said this to my Aunt Colleen, and I'm saying this to people now that are Bear fans. These two games, Cardinals and Patriots, were key for you because you have to play after these two games that's supposedly winnable. Now, New England, probably winnable. But Drake May looks really good, so I'm intrigued by that matchup because Raiders got a bye week. But my point is, you have two games right now. You better beat New England this week because if you don't, you're going to follow what, 4-5? And you're going to slip. Because I could see them going on an 8-game losing streak. I really could. You got the Niners in there with McCaffrey coming back. You still got your gauntlet on NFC North teams you got to play. You got the Lions, you got the Vikings, you got the Packers still to play. So they ain't going to be no joke. So Bears better wake the fuck up. And you better beat New England this weekend. Because if you don't, it's over. And you're going to have a long offseason in Chicago after all that hype you got this past season. I didn't buy into it, but it is what it is. So that's all I wanted to get on here tonight. Like I said, tomorrow I was recording this right during the Buccaneer Chief game in Kansas City. So shout out to Chase Mathis. I've been to that stadium. It is loud as shit. One of my favorite venues in all football. So thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. Like I always do every night, hit the like, subscribe, share button, and tune in for more content this week as the week unfolds, and talk to you guys soon.